So once you've decided what you're going to do there, and I would just draft it and think it through. What are the limitations of every theory? What are these limitations? So that would certainly be something that you'd want to explore for a bit and try to understand how our theory is limited, because I think these limitations are interwoven and going to be directly connected to how you justify the need to retain multiplicity of theories. So if you are going to be looking at the limitations of every theory, depending also on how you define every theory, it's even possible that you're going to need to say, okay, in this essay, I'm going to look at these representative theories and then generalize them, to mean every theory. How are you going to arrive at the notion of every theory? And how are you going to select particular theories in the areas of knowledge and say that these examples support this notion of every theory? Is that something worth looking at? Maybe, maybe not. During the process of inductive reasoning, theories can find themselves unable to explain arising evidence. So you would need to spell out these different scenarios. You would need to think about where is the tolerance of theory. If something is an accepted theory, and then scientific studies and experiments, data comes back, new evidence comes in, and you start to find outliers and deviance from theoretical explanations, then what is the tolerance limit of particular theories before they're discounted and said, okay, that's no longer a reliable, valid, successful, effective, useful, pragmatic theory to hold anymore. So we're going to let that theory go in favour of a new theory. So if the tolerance is great, then it's possible that that an older theory, an existing theory, could stay in place, but another theory could be incorporated or added on or included or in other ways, some other way connected to the existing theory as a way of accommodating for new data and new evidence, which may or may not be defined in terms of just being an outlier, just being a deviance from the theory, but rather something significant. So the notion of significance in evidence and data collection, that notion, that concept of significance might play a role here. So during the process of deductive reasoning, theory has to ride on an assumption and predictions. I'm not sure what I meant by that. What happens if we take a single theory to be the all-encompassing ultimate truth? So what happens if we don't retain a multiplicity of theories? So now this would be the aspect of the title of the claim that we could challenge, I think, that the notion of we need to retain a multiplicity is, well, maybe we don't. Do we really need to retain a multiplicity of theories? That part of the claim could be challenged more effectively, successfully, or sorry, the word's gone there, but that part of the claim could be challenged better is a horrible word there, than the assumption in the claim, given that every theory is a limitation. So that part, not really challengeable, I would think, but this part, we need to retain a multiplicity of theories, that part could be challenged. Convincingly is the word I was looking for there. Do we really need to retain? Well, what happens if we do take a single theory? And now there would be examples where we do want to take only a single theory, and that's the thing that we're trying to go for. We want a single theory to explain something. If we or to understand something that we are observing. If we have too many theories, doesn't that lead to confusion, Doesn't it lead to doubt and uncertainty? Which theory do we? If these multiple theories are, maybe they're not pragmatic anymore. Maybe they become useless or ineffective at doing what we want theory to do. So, what is it that we want theory to do? What's the purpose of theory? This notion of explaining so that we can understand. Why is that important? These questions here could be looked at in the discussion. So what happens if we take a single theory to be the ultimate truth? Have I worded this well? I'm not sure. Something here could be reworded perhaps. If we did take a single theory, then what happens? And probably what's going to happen that you could say that yes, these are the limitations of theories. Contradictions happen, failures to accommodate for findings. And why? Because we've got new evidence coming. Why have we got new evidence? Well, we've got the rise of technology. We've got the development of methodology. The historical development of a particular area of knowledge could show you that. And you could use, back in the 1800s, a single theory did explain some aspect of the world. But now, in the year 2000s, when we've got whole different types of methodology, you would need to outline what this new methods are, and we've got new evidence. You would have to give examples of what new evidence have come out, and we've got new methods, we've got new evidence, and the technology, what else? I'm just trying to think. Personal knowledge, so in each area of knowledge. So we've got new scientists or new explorers have gone out there, they've discovered something, they've created something. So you would have different people from the 1800s and then people from the 2000s. And all of these things together would help you in your discussion to show that we can't have that theory doesn't stay stable. And maybe that's one reason why we need to retain a multiplicity of theories. And that is an understanding that we have about theory in general, or as a concept, since when, right? So now we could look at the philosophy of science and see that theory itself and evidence has been discussed. These are notions in the philosophy of science that would be interesting possibly inside the essay. But then you're starting to get into some pretty deep water, pretty hard, it starts to get pretty difficult, and definitely you'd be wanting to do some research. What happens, right, so you can take examples here from those, there's some interesting examples there, right? We, who are they? It implies shared knowledge, it implies experts in the field, particularly when we're talking about areas of knowledge. I don't think you want to be talking about your family, your friends, your culture, unless it's to introduce something. So this, the idea of needing to retain, how are you going to talk about that? Does it mean to keep as opposed to find, discover, or does it mean to develop? Not really. Retain means to, really to hold on to something. So that means that you've had multiple theories in hand, more than one theory in hand, and you are in the process of discarding one or other theory. And somebody inside the lab is saying, hang on, wait, we need to hold on to that theory as well. This is kind of a sense in this word here, to retain something. So it's different from trying to find another theory that we can add on, or trying to develop a particular theory, advance it. It's a different notion, right? So to retain means to keep, which means we've already got, which means that there are a number of theories in hand. Maybe it's just two or more, because multiple implies more than just two. And, at which stage in the scientific method or the scientific process do we discard a particular theory, or and why do we hold a number of theories in hand? See, so there's something going on there that you could look at. And does this really apply to all areas of knowledge in all cases? Or is there some particular cases nowadays that we're finding that we really do need to retain multiple theories. And perhaps that's something else about the title that you could discuss. The notion that there might be some cases where, hang on a second, no, in these cases, even though the theory does have limitations, we do need to stick with having a single theory. However, in these cases, then we really do need a multiplicity of theories to understand and help us explain, and for things to be useful. What are those examples? And those might be interesting examples, like theories in climate change, or theories of ecology, theories of in quantum physics, even possibly theories. You've got economics theories, history, and history of art. Even inside geography and explanations of ecosystems, and understandings of geographic time. These can't be explained by a single theory. Why not? Maybe it's because of our method. Maybe our method isn't advanced enough to be able to deliver one single theory. Okay, so can you read that for yourselves there? It implies that the title is really going after an attitude of open-mindedness, ever open to inquiry. And isn't that the spirit of TOK as well? TOK is this idea of having an open mind to inquiry rather than closed-mindedness. Now, where does this notion of open inquiry, so where does this notion of open-mindedness, closed-mindedness, narrow-mindedness, keep your inquiry mindset and method open, where does that appear inside the knowledge framework, perhaps? That could be something interesting worth going after. I'm going to continue this in part 3.